stores of iOS and Android. When you download, make sure to rate, leave a comment. Both apps are free. And one more thing, Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. And without further ado, let's roll.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Sports Den. I'm here with Obi, Spencer, and Brandon Kaye, as usual. No Scott tonight, so just the three of us. How you folks doing tonight?
Oh, I'm great. I am great. Looking forward to the next month and a half of basketball. I hope I get to watch that long.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting. I know some people dog on the NBA playoffs for a multitude of reasons, but regardless of that, I think it's going to be a good tournament nonetheless.
Yes, and a quick shout out to Ryan, Devion, and Kyle for holding down the fort last week with their WrestleMania recap episode. They did a fantastic job. We'll see if we can do other similar episodes for other big wrestling events throughout the year. We'll see what happens, but thanks again. They did a great job. All right, so this week, as Brandon said, the NBA playoffs starting with as Brandon calls it, April Foolishness. The idiotic play-in games, which are so important that the Dallas Mavericks decided it was not worth their time and blatantly tanked, so they wouldn't have to possibly get in and risk losing their draft pick. When a draft pick is more important than making this joke of a system, that tells you all you need to know right there.
I will start with harassing the Mavericks then, because I've looked into it, and team players who win a title, who are drafted as a lottery pick, which is what they were trying to get, only win with the team that's drafted. Remember, this is just players that have won, like 16% of the time. And if you get one of the top three picks, the team that drafts them only wins with the player that drafted 1, 2, or 3 only wins their first championship with the team that drafted them, like 5%. And so the last guy to do it was Kyrie, and obviously, and LeBron does not count in that because he did go to Miami to win his first one and then came back. So these draft
does he count for the Cleveland championship since it was technically the team?
Well, what about Giannis?
Giannis is not a top 3 pick.
You say top 3.
So it's like 15%, and then it gets even smaller. So I think trying to get a draft pick is overvalued. I think NBA teams overvalue those draft picks because yes, NBA is very good at picking out who's good. Problem is they're not good enough to win a championship and old enough to win a championship until they've at the end of their first contract, they can move on to wherever they want. A la AD says, I'm not going to win one in here and go over to LA and win one. So it's, I think that they made a mistake. They made a mistake when they trade for Kyrie, obviously. And, not being in the playoffs, that's at least one home game that they, 1-2 games they're not going to get. And they look like crap.
Yeah, and they intentionally rested all their starters, and I understand that the long-term development that getting the 10th pick versus possibly playing 1 or 2 games and losing and ending up right in the same spot without a first-round pick, that long-term play it is better, but to have to intentionally lose games to get it in the way that they did, that's a terrible look and further shows, how devalued that the NBA regular season has gotten, by now, where just there is absolutely nothing going for these teams in the middle of the pack. Even the ones that, that get in as 6, 7, 8 seeds losing the first round for what? It's a really tough sell to get excited about these games. Although Brandon, now that your team is in, you famously coined the April Foolishness term last season, and that's where your Heat are this week. So have your thoughts changed?
No, it is as ridiculous as ever, but let's not forget they are the 7th seed, which would still be a traditional playoff seed nonetheless, had this April Foolishness not come to fruition. So, I mean, if they were the 9 or 10 seed, I might be like, I do have that integrity. But to the Kyrie and the Mavericks point, it's just very interesting. Between the two of you, can you name the teams that Kyrie has been on for me?
Cleveland, Boston,
let me
Brooklyn.
check. Cleveland. Okay. Yeah, they're in the playoffs.
Boston.
Cleveland, Boston,
and Brooklyn.
That's interesting. Yeah, Boston is also in the playoffs.
And Brooklyn.
And Brooklyn.
Yeah, Brooklyn too. And what's that other team that is so tied to the Mavericks because of other trades and other players switching jerseys? That would be the New York Knicks, correct?
And
the Knicks, right? With Porzingis, Jalen Brunson, that whole saga. They are also in the playoffs. So for a traditional playoff, half of the real playoff seedings in the East are tied to either Kyrie or something a team has done in relation to Kyrie in terms of the Mavericks. It's just, I was very, and I said this when this happened, that if there was one person that, yes, maybe he plays it off because of, for the looks and the optics of it. But the one person that I thought would be so pissed off when this news came out was Luka Doncic. And to watch them and to watch him, who Giannis and Luka, other than LeBron, are my 2 favorite players in the league. And to watch Luka kind of, it's not an unraveling because it's not exactly that type of a situation, but to kind of see him not be himself, it's kind of, you can either say it's either directly related to the Kyrie situation, or if it's not, I mean, is it a coincidence? So I really think this Kyrie situation and to go from the 4 seed to out of April Foolishness, you're not even a fool at that point. You're lower than the fools. I just think is a collapse that I think is historically might be looked upon not favorably because I don't know how many people are really like calling this for what it is. This was a total collapse. And for Mark Cuban to make the moves that he had done in these last few months, very unlike him. He usually is very smart with decision making. Dallas is a nice free agent destination. He is a very good owner, cares about his team maybe more than any other owner in the league. And so it was very surprising to see this downfall in Dallas and to watch the other teams that are connected to this kind of flourish. It's just very interesting to see.
So I read a great article. I wish I could give the author some credit. The bottom line is Kyrie may not make your team worse, but he certainly doesn't make it better. I mean, essentially when you did the math on points per 100 possessions, they improved the Mavericks by like 2 points per 100 possession, but gave up 2.2 points more per 100 possessions. And they were a team that was kind of right on the cusp, and that was just enough to make them slip. So, I mean, I think the Cuban took a shot at 4 wasn't good enough. I want to win this thing. It's worth a shot. I will be boggled if he signs him long term. As see where that goes, because yes, Cuban is a people seem to want to play for. Although Brunson couldn't get out of there fast enough, so maybe not. Maybe the Magic's worn off.
And funny you touch on Brunson, because that was actually the point I was about to bring up, where while Kyrie, understandably and rightfully gets a lot of heat for this collapse, part of it is the fact that part of the Mavericks' downfall was how they were really playing above their weight class last season because of the play of Jalen Brunson. Brunson, of course, is now with the Knicks since they signed him to a better offer. So aside from Brunson for a few months last year, the Mavericks have been struggling and have clearly gotten increasingly more desperate, just trying to put a second star next to Doncic. Where they tried it with Porzingis, that didn't work. Brunson walked. Now they were trying Kyrie just to see if he could put him over the hump when the entire league knew that was a bad idea. Although Kyrie's play hasn't been the only reason for the Mavericks to hit the skids down the stretch as much as they have. They were just playing, in retrospect, they were playing in a way that was just not sustainable over the course of the season, especially in the craziness of the Western Conference, where there were so many teams that were bunched up. So 4th to 11th sounds terrible, but when the difference between 4th to 11th is like 6 games, it isn't as bad if you look into it, but it's still pretty darn bad. And the Mavericks look pathetic, especially when they got to a point where they were saying where they made the calculated and correct from a long-term planning perspective of, tanking for this draft pick is better for our long-term future than possibly making it scraping into the play-in as a 10th seed. And it looks bad for the franchise. Mark Cuban is not normally one of the clueless owners. I mean, people, it's a debate back and forth as far as how much time he spends in the public eye versus running the team. But nobody could say that Cuban is just laying back and cashing checks like some other owner, like too many owners in professional sports do. He's very much involved. But sometimes it just doesn't work out. And it blew up in a way that was worse. We had an episode where we talked almost the entire episode about how this is a terrible idea, and it ended up being even worse than we thought.
Yes. I mean, so I'm gonna take this back away from Kyrie Irving, and first I would like to thank Miami for not catching Brooklyn, because as a Sixer fan, I don't. Miami scares me more than any other team other than Milwaukee. Like, I'm very happy with where the Sixers are. I'd like to play Brooklyn. I like the chances against Boston, and maybe something weird happens to Milwaukee in the first 2 rounds, and the Sixers have their opportunity. So that's my path for the Sixers. What's your path for Miami?
The thing with Miami, though, as opposed to the other, that 7-8 matchup, I think is the hardest individual path in the East. Okay, because if you win that, you go against Boston in the first round right away. That's tough. Boston's expected to at least make a lot of people's finals, and if not win. Okay, now we all think Brooklyn is going to lose to Philly. So then you go Boston to now Philly in the second round, who's going to have an MVP, who's a defensive monster and an extremely tough team. Same thing. A lot of people expect this team to either win the East or win the finals in general. And then, again, all of us are assuming that Milwaukee, or expecting, I should say, Milwaukee, not a cakewalk, but a much easier path to the conference finals. So right now, that 7-8 matchup is going to go realistically Boston to Philly to Milwaukee. I mean, that's ridiculously tough.
Brutal.
But out of any of these foolish teams in the East, bias aside, I do think Miami has the best chance based on what they traditionally do in the playoffs, based on how mentally sound they are as a team, how well they can play defensively, how well they can shoot on any given night. But I'm not worried about this Atlanta matchup, but just from right out of the gate from that, it's going to be tough. And I give them a chance as well as anybody, but it's like I said, it's going to be a gauntlet. But yeah, I think it's going to be a tough road for them. quite.
Miami's also matched up well against Boston the past few years.
Yeah.
So there is some hope there, but it's I don't know the season record, how Miami's played against Atlanta this year, but on paper that shouldn't be close, but anything can happen in one game. But if there's anybody that can really give Boston fits in the first round, I think it is Miami. So there is a chance there, and that would be, as far as I'm concerned, the first real first round upset that in the NBA playoffs in years. Like, I can't think of anything like any outside of a 4-5 matchup, which could go either way. I don't remember the last time where there was a true low seed upset.
Maybe the Warriors.
What seed?
The Baron Davis Warriors over the top seed Mavericks.
What seed was the Mavericks?
That was a 1-8.
Yeah, that was years ago. What seed was the Mavericks last year?
But they were a 4 seed though.
Mavericks.
So, and that was a second round upset. Okay. So yes, that was an upset as far as a low seed beating a higher seed, but that was in the second round.
What about? I'm just trying to. I agree with you. I'm just trying to, like, I wish we had everything. I thought, was Denver the first year that they actually got in the playoffs and Murray was all world? Was that a lower seed, a significant lower seed? Again, those are some of the ones that were big stories. I wish I don't have the. But overall, you're right. It doesn't happen in the NBA playoffs. A 6 is generally a huge upset, right? A 7 or 8 winning is
right,
unheard of, and
it's happened, but it hasn't in a while.
Right.
Now, and let's remember, those two teams matched up in the conference finals last year, and Jimmy Butler is a 3 away from taking the Heat back to the NBA finals.
Yes.
Which in an East that has been run before the Brooklyn blow up, had been run by Giannis, Embiid, you could say Durant, Kyrie. The Heat would have been to 2 out of the last 4 finals, going back to the bubble.
Right.
So again, I give them as much a chance as anybody, but it's going to be so tough. But you can clearly tell that this East is 1, 2, 3, and then a toss up underneath that.
Yeah. I would not say the same about the West, though. I mean, I'm looking at the West going, well, if the Lakers handle Minnesota tonight, then they could go and handle Ja Morant and his craziness just because of maturity. And then if it's Sacramento,
it's not even two. Let's remember, it's the other guys too.
Yeah. Oh no. And then oh, by the way, did Sacramento hold on off Golden State, or does Golden State learn to win on the road? And then you got Lakers gold. Like, you can see any of the. Like, I don't see Minnesota, New Orleans, or Oklahoma City making noise, but if the Lakers can definitely make some noise, and especially if they win the first game and don't have to go to Denver. Otherwise, I think Denver's happy to get the Lakers earlier before they start to get really rolling. And of course, Lakers need to stay healthy because they're just 1/2 a centimeter away of Anthony Davis landing on somebody's foot and not playing for the rest of the playoffs.
Now, is it crazy to think that the Lakers can at least get to the Western Conference Finals? Because Minnesota, they got teammates punching themselves, and they're suspended now. So that's, I mean, that's a blow up. We know Memphis. First off, we know the history with that team, and I think the Lakers are going to be so heavily focused and tunnel vision on taking care of business and trying to have Memphis almost beat themselves while trying not to get involved in all the BS that goes along with them. And then after that, you would have Sacramento, that we have no idea what they're going to do in the playoffs because we haven't seen them in damn near 2 decades.
Right.
And then Golden State,
and
yes, they're the defending
champions
champions.
In the first round.
Right, yes. And then you have Golden State, the defending champions, but they can't win on the road. I mean, Jesus. And even at home, it's not a guarantee. I mean, look, and these guys are up there. You never know with health. That's always for anybody. Again, that's not a guarantee. And then then the other side, you have the Clippers and Phoenix in the first round. Paul George is out. Okay, and we don't know when he's exactly coming back. And Denver, I mean, they in the playoffs, they still have some question marks that need to be answered. So again, it's not crazy to think that the Lakers on the Western side can get to the Western Conference Finals.
I agree wholeheartedly. That Memphis Sacramento at 2-3, it just screams Golden State and the Lakers getting through, right? And if that happens, and Denver Phoenix has a crazy clash that goes 7 games and are exhausted, and on the other hand, Golden State can't win on the road, and the Lakers take care of business, or Golden State figures out how to win on the road and crushes the Lakers. That team I can see coming out after a 5-game series, going up against an exhausted, beaten up Denver or Phoenix and winning this thing. It's not crazy. It's a weird breakup. That all assumes, by the way, the Lakers win tonight, or not tonight, on Tuesday. I mean, I think if they have to go against Denver for 7 games in the first round, Denver will take care of them. But if not, I think the West is crazy open.
Yeah, I was just looking back at the playoff brackets for the past 3 years to answer our earlier question as far as when was the last actual low seed upset. 2018, 6 seed Pelicans swept 3 seed Portland.
Wow!
So it's been 5 years since any actual low seed. And when I say low seed, I mean 6 seed or less won a first round playoff game. And I agree. We could easily see 2 of those in the West this year with how that's shaken out. I think Warriors are over Sacramento for sure. I wanted to give Sacramento more credit, but this is the first time in the playoffs for anybody on that team, and experience matters at this level. So, but also with Golden State and their struggles, with the Warriors, that could go either way, but I think experience wins out, and the Warriors. I agree that the Warriors get to the second round, and if the Lakers do beat Minnesota like they should to get that 7 seed, and you have a Lakers Memphis matchup, Lakers absolutely could take that, because I never know what you're gonna get from Memphis in any given night. As
on or
off the court issues aside, they're such a Jekyll and Hyde team. You don't really know what you're going to get, and if there's anybody that can take advantage of that, it's the Lakers when they have everybody healthy and actually firing on all cylinders. Which, yes, that's been rare the past few years, but it's possible.
And the Lakers are healthy now, right? And Phoenix is, and Phoenix is healthy now, and Denver is healthy now, and Golden State, well, they're not, because did Wiggins come back? I mean, I got confused. I was trying to follow the news, and then
but he's kind of being a little bit, eased in a little bit.
Okay.
So I mean, health wise, yes, it's still just a kind of a head in the game situation at that point.
Okay.
They're just still working them up to game speed. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think this is such a big game for the Lakers against Minnesota. Bigger than I think Miami is for Atlanta. Because I think if Miami loses and then gets in as the 8, there's a certain ease, by the way. I think, as you mentioned, play Milwaukee, then get Cleveland, New York, and then the winner of Boston, Philadelphia. Like, you're going to have to beat Milwaukee essentially to get in. So maybe play them in the first round and get them before they're hot and rolling. So, like, Miami, it's not even – I think you always want to play the lower-seeded team just because. But if Miami were to lose and then win and go in as 8, it's not nearly as devastating as for the Lakers with that. Because there is that gap. It's Denver, and then I don't feel confident until I get to Phoenix, right? It's like Memphis and Sacramento, young, low playoff inexperience, and the team with the more playoff inexperience just they're not grounded. That's a team you look at and go, they need a coach who's going to say, go get the guy go sign him off New York and get the old defensive minded coach who gives no quorum into Memphis. But not that they're going to do that.
And whoever wins that Clippers Phoenix first round 4-5 matchup, they have a much easier path. If they, because Denver, where they'd only have to play either Denver or and whoever survives that 2-3-7-8 madness. And with Durant coming back from injury, and they're healthy now, it's definitely the West is so wide open, where really you could make an argument for or against any one of these teams just about.
Agreed. I mean, I think it is fascinating that the East feels like 1, 2, 3. And we'll see how they end up matching up. We expect our regular. Maybe you get New York over Cleveland because sometimes the 4 beats the 5, and then the West. It's like, okay, after April Foolishness, we're as close as we're going to get to March Madness in the NBA playoffs that we're going to see in quite some time, and probably not again for a long time. Like, it is the most exciting playoff matchup. Like, every year people try to talk you into 6 can beat a 5, or 6 can beat a 3, or maybe even 7 can beat a 2.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't happen, right? Like we said, way back when you guys remembered the year when Dallas lost. That was the last 8-1, and I don't see anyone touching Denver in the first round. I don't care which one of these teams is there. Denver is solidly coached team with great players. Put the pressure of the second round and the finals on them, and let's see how they do. But I don't think even the Lakers, 100% healthy, are going to take Denver in the first round with no real pressure on Denver in the best of 7 series. They're going to have to wait for some nicks and bumps and stuff into the second round.
Yeah. And at least in the 90s and early 2000s, there was a bit of an element of randomness to the first round of the NBA playoffs with the 5-game series. But since I believe it's coming up on 15, 20 years now since they moved it to the 7-game series, and since then it's been pretty chalk, with the only exception I can think of, as off the top of my head, as you said, Obi, was that Dallas Golden State series, and that was in 2007. So it's been a while.
And then before that, the Knicks upsetting my Heat as a top 6 in routine.
But that was a 5-game series.
Yes.
2 years in a row. 2 years in a row. That was fun as a Knicks fan.
Wait, a point. Well, I actually wanted to make 2 points, because the interesting thing is, the first point is, I think you could make an argument for every single first round matchup, except for the number 1 seeds, depending on how the foolishness plays out. Every first round matchup has its own storyline, right? Because you have, let's just say it's Heat, it's Heat Celtics first round. That's your conference finals rematch. A lot of eyes are going to be on that. Then you go to Sixers in Brooklyn, the whole James Harden drama. The whole, that whole saga. Then you have Cavs and Knicks. The Donovan Mitchell wanting to go to the Knicks and then ending up with Cleveland.
If you look at who the Knicks would have given up in that trade, versus who they kept, it's basically the core of their team this year. So if the Knicks actually pulled the trigger on this trade, the Knicks probably aren't even in the playoffs.
Right. And then I think if let's say Miami loses against the Hawks and get past either Toronto or Chicago, that first round matchup, it's not going to be really like a storyline in any real kind of sense like that. And then over to the West, I mean, unless the Lakers were to lose to the Timberwolves, you would have that first round matchup, which was just the LeBron Lakers factor is interesting. But then let's say Minnesota, you would have Minnesota-Memphis. Remember their series last year, how back and forth that dogfight was, right? That would be a rematch. And then we have just the Sacramento Kings making it to the playoffs for the first time in so long. The Golden State defending the championship aspect. And then, I guess, Kevin Durant in Phoenix and trying to get an actual championship in that situation. I think it's just very interesting. You don't really get these storylines and a lot of these very almost meaningful matchups in the first round, right? A lot of times people especially kind of poo-poo the first round and really wait till we get to the second round and then kind of trim the fat on these playoff seedings. And then I did want to make – do we want to make our finals pick?
Our finals pick. I'm barely able to make a pick on the April foolishness.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I don't have a pick yet because I will say this: as of right now, my picks would still be with my heart. And I'm gonna right now just looking at it. My Sixers are gonna find a way, and then I'm very torn on this Phoenix team because. I mean, can we please get Chris Paul a championship? This man has had so many great playoff runs just end on injuries. On the other hand, do I want to see Durant get one here? Like, I'm very torn, but I'm going to go with, okay, go Phoenix for now.
I have similar feelings about Phoenix.
I could tell the minute I put on Phoenix.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot there then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I agree. I agree with regarding the Suns, where it'd be cool to see Chris Paul get one, but I don't really want to see Durant win out. Although it would be hilarious salt in the wound for the Nets, which I could probably get on board with that.
Yeah.
My only finals pick is that the Knicks make that the Sixers follow the path of all the other Philly sports teams this year, make the finals and lose.
That would be too fitting. I don't know if a city can handle that much heartbreak.
I think, based on what I've heard on sports radio, that would be a successful season for the Sixers because right now they can't get past the second round. So if they were to get to the finals and lose, the feeling would be that the window's still open. You can stick with the core. Maxi's probably shown that he's for real. And then it's just Harden go, and what can you get for Harden? And if not, what else do you put on the team? So I think for the Sixers, as a fan base, that would be some heartbreak because I feel like whoever comes out of the West, you got to feel like you're better than. But in the end, it would be okay. And that next year feel will be there. If they lose in the second round to Boston, presuming chalk holds, that I think will be catastrophic in Philadelphia sports lexicon right up to the first Eagles game. Well,
yep.
What were to happen? Let's say this super starless Brooklyn Nets were able to do what many people think that they can't do. And upset the Philadelphia 76ers in the first round. Obi, you guys being the 76ers fan and the closest to Philly, how would this land?
Doc Rivers would be fired before he even left the arena.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Literally, that's where I was going to go. 40 interviews over.
just
done. Sorry, Doc, because, and I would imagine that Harden gets moved to Houston. He's talked about, I think it's free, he will be gone. Harden will be gone and Rivers will be gone if they were to lose to Brooklyn. And I wouldn't even be surprised if they found a deal to try to move Maxey for I don't know who, but for somebody.
They probably blow the whole team up. Maybe keep Embiid and try and, but everybody else they try and blow up the core and rebuild.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, that would be something.
We're going to trade you Maxey and get Butler back, who was the best player to play with Embiid.
No, we're going to hold on to Butler as long as we can and hope he retires a Heat because he's been fantastic. And you know what, Butler, and you could attend to this, Obi. He's one of those like ideal players in which going up against him, you hate him. When he's on your team, he's you ride or die. You would run through a wall with him for him.
I would go so far as to say, having had him on my team, I still love him. I think he is one of the most
or after right or afterwards.
He is one of the most underrated players in the NBA. I think that he doesn't get considered a superstar, and maybe he's not, but he's the first guy off the list. Then I am sorry, he is I think one of the most underrated players because he adds that LeBron maturity, managing the team factor that we know Durant doesn't have. Like he brings that, and you can see it, and that's why he's a perfect Heat because that's what Pat Riley wants down there from his best player. Pat Riley wants his best player to also be the extra coach. And it works out so well for him on the Heat. But yeah, I think he's a guy you just don't get until you've had him as a player on your team. You're like, oh, Butler, I get it. All right, I see it.
Yeah. So we guess we can kind of wrap up NBA and move on to other things. But I did want to make my pick here because I'm really going out there and really going with the kind of Hollywood aspect to this. This past season, well, I mean, we're finishing up the season, but overall, this past season, what was the memorable kind of achievement that had happened?
The most points by Mr. James.
Right. Albeit that I have the Milwaukee Bucks coming out of the East and winning the NBA Finals as my head. That's my head pick.
Mm-hmm.
I think we are going to get a Kareem team finals. Lakers, Bucks. Ooh. My heart, because the uphill battle if LeBron were to lose, the uphill battle that I would have to continue to climb. It would be too stressful. So my head is the Bucks, my heart is the Lakers. I'm gonna ride my Connecticut winning the championship pick momentum, and hopefully that carries me to the pros.
Fair enough.
All right, so we'll see.
April foolishness.
Right. Okay, so next up we have we want to go into baseball opening week or NHL or any other topics you guys want to bring up. Where do we want to go next?
We could head into baseball. We got that full swing now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we have we're a week into the season. The Phillies are off to a slow start. Mets are off to a slow start, and the Yankees, not really sure what to make out of them. It looks like it's going to be a long season for them, but could be. But it's 8 games out of 162. So is there really any kind of judgment that we can make on any of this yet?
So I like to kind of think of this, I know they've moved it to 17 games, but it used to be 16 games season in the NFL, 162 games in baseball. Every 10 games is the equivalent of one NFL game. 5-5. So you won one half of a game, you lost another half a game for the Mets. The Yankees 6-3, and they won 2 quarters, a little bit more than they. Very tight here. I mean, I don't believe in Tampa, so if I'm a Yankee fan, I'm not worried about Tampa Bay with a 9-0 start. But it's so hard to read anything. 3 games. You can buy. Well, I still talk about the Yankees like they're owned by Hal's dad. Like, they'll buy some runs in the middle of the season, but they don't. So that's just me being old.
Yeah, especially since the teams that do that would be the Mets now. Uncle Stevie does what George used to do in his prime back in the day. His most, especially at his most unhinged in the 80s.
Which he might want to think about starting to do soon. Just saying.
Yeah, and I mean, when the average age of your starting rotation is 36, you're asking for problems, but didn't think it would be this fast. But also, it's early, so I don't really think it's panic mode yet for any of these teams. But just something feels a little off so far with the Mets. It seems like. Not sure what it is, if it's the pitching or something else. Just something doesn't feel quite right yet, but it's still early. What do you think?
I feel like we thought we were going to get something special. and we're getting an average baseball team that has some guys who will be coming back, and they get a couple of 7-game win streaks in here without a matching losing streak, and all of a sudden 14 games over 500. Okay, 18. So it's still very doable, but the expectation that was set was Pete Alonso was going to be chasing 62, and these old pitchers were going to come out in their Cy Young form, and every game was going to be saved with a song. It was just the expectations were enormous, and they can't live up to those expectations. And as a Met fan, having expectations is always shocking to begin with.
Yeah.
I think one of the things are minus, the obvious and guys not being in the lineup and or rotation and or bullpen, the energy and the fun that they were having all last year isn't there. Is it due to the pop of the balloon that was the injury to Diaz? Maybe not. But I don't think there is that yes, there's a buzz, but like with the guys out and not having the rhythm that they were expecting to have between the guys in the rotation, the guys in the lineup, trying to figure out the DH spot. It's just the question marks are beginning. Yes, it is extremely early. They have again a tough stretch coming up with the Dodgers or Padres this series and the Dodgers next week. And look, it's just really we expect the Mets to go far, and the minute one little thing happens, then I think there is that freak out because we haven't proven that we can sustain a devastating blow, whether it be injury or extreme loss in a playoff series, which we just had, and we're going to see how we respond to that, which is fitting of going up against the Padres in this 3-game series, and we'll just see how they carry on. But it is early. But they do need to address things quickly, both pitching wise, offensively, defensively. I think they're just fine. But some of these question marks need to start being answered quickly because look, I mean, the Braves aren't going to go away. We'll see how Philly kind of gets the ball rolling there. Marlins and Nationals, we don't expect much from them, and we'll see how it goes. But yes, not all hope is lost. It's still barely the middle of April. We got tons of baseball to play.
Yeah.
I will say on the fun factor, I don't know. As a fan, I always thought Conforto just brought a lot of that fun energy to a team. Just that's the one guy I wonder for that fun factor. And, that can be infectious to a team if that's the kind of guy who's missing. And that might be the kind of guy who they need. Just somebody a little more relaxed to kind of give that team a little bit less uptightedness. Because I think their fun is also they had expectations.
Yep. You don't think Lindor fits the fun role?
I don't think Lindor fits the fun role because Lindor has always had that pressure of coming to New York, and I always feel like we're still like remembering every time he comes up to bat. I just remember that first season he's been there, and I'm always like, oh wow, he's not hitting 198 every time I look.
You just think of thumbs down.
I'm just thinking this. I'm like, oh, he's much better. Yeah, he's not as good as we thought he was going to be, but he's not the garbage he was when he first started. That's part of my problem with Lindor. It's not his fault. The numbers are much better than they were that first season since then, but it's just that shadow is always there for me with him.
Okay. Yeah, I mean the with the Mets, like in fun, like guys like Alonso's a fun guy. Last year, Escobar is, but I kind of he goes with his play. So and we know Diaz is a fun guy. We know some, and that maybe it is kill. more of a detriment than we realize. And it's just too soon to actually come to fruition for the team. But maybe that is. And sometimes it happens. And, we made the moves in the offseason to try and or I say in the offseason, it was barely the offseason. We were in spring training. And we'll see how it plays out very early. I'm not really kind of calling for the life preserver just yet.
Yeah, it's 10. We're 10 games in. The Mets are 5-5. Tampa being 9-0 is the biggest surprise so far. But they're really, but otherwise it's, and we're down about 30 minutes with the average game time with the pitch clock so far.
Yeah. So that seems to be working. Occasionally get a weird strike. Stolen bases are up. I don't know if it's bringing eyes to the games. Like that's what we're not hearing about. We know the time's down. What are the ratings doing? Are they?
Well, it's hard to get ratings when all your local teams are blacked out, and everyone has to go to all these backdoor channel, pun intended, ways of getting your games. It's hard to get an accurate reading.
Yeah, I mean it's as far as ratings go, it's almost with that factor in mind and how all the hoops needed to jump through for local teams. But at least we're lucky in the in New Jersey, New York, and Philly, where the RSNs are mostly accessible. For at least for the baseball teams. With Yes and SNY and NBC Sports Philly. But with the Bally's disaster that's affecting half the league, where even if you have a cable subscription or whatever thing, where you just aren't getting them. So it's hard to grow fan. And this has been, I don't care about pitch clock, how big the bases are, the shift, none of that. The biggest issue with Major League Baseball, and even with the Bally's bankruptcy, even that's probably going to play out over the course of the season, where now they're picking and choosing which teams they're paying based on the contract status. So it's going to be a while before the courts sort that out. But you can't become fans if you can't grow your game if people can't see it. If people can't see your games, you're not going to grow fans. They need to figure this out. And if this doesn't sort out over the next few months, then NBA and NHL have an even bigger issue in the fall. But we'll see. But we'll see how that all goes. The quicker Bally's goes down and MLB can just take back all the rights, the better.
Yes.
Yeah. So another event that we had this past weekend was the Masters, where John Rahm came back from behind and beat Brooks Koepka to win the Masters.
Yes, I wish I could tell you it was exciting. I tried to watch it, and Mother Nature had other plans. So sometimes Mother Nature is going to win, and so that made it difficult to watch. But I did follow it, thanks to the wonderful world of apps, and was excited to see that. I did have Rahm 900 plus 950. Go me. But I don't think it was also all that surprising that he did win. He's been hitting this. Are we allowed to say snot out of the ball here on this network? Yes, we are.
Snot, I think we can go with.
Yeah, so he's been really and Koepka's been having a good season in the Live, as far as I'm aware. But the question was, can the Live guys play the last 18 holes? And at least for Koepka, he couldn't. He kind of choked. On the other hand, we had old man Mickelson do the exact opposite. Had I think the best final round of the tournament.
So career.
He put a 65 up.
Yeah. So I mean, that is just saying that it was just Koepka in this case, and there's a difference between playing in the first or the last group and a few groups away. You start making a move, and you're feeling. By the time you start making a move, your confidence overweighs any nerves, and that's obvious, especially when you won a few things, which obviously happened for Phil. And then Tiger looked like he was in pain from the first time I saw him in practice, and obviously couldn't complete the thing, but he, it looks like a man who had a severe leg injury that's never going to quite heal. Is what he looks like. So he's out there and he's giving fans what they want. But I would love to see him have one more, lightning in the bottle. But I would not put my money on that at this point.
I will say that even for him to even make the cut was an accomplishment, and that tied, I believe, the all-time record of 23 straight Masters tournaments that he played in. That Tiger has made the cut. So that in itself is an accomplishment. The thing with Tiger relative to other aging golfers is that we're used to golfers that their game changes a bit, but they can still be competitive. Look at Phil at 50, where he finished tied for second in the Masters at age 52. But Tiger trained and like a pro athlete. He was essentially a pro athlete playing against a bunch of scrubs in his prime, before the first car accident.
Right.
So it's hard in the sense of, wow, he's still young for a golfer, but struggling this much, but also he's old for a pro athlete, which is what he was. So he is aged like a pro athlete, and the car accidents, the personal stuff, and everything else thrown on top of that, for the fact that he's even showing up at these tours is impressive. But this is still quite sad to see, where he can't even walk for 4 rounds. Don't have their topic in front of me. I apologize. And thanks again to all of you out there. Like, subscribe, and comments. What are your big sports events you're looking forward to over the next few weeks with the NHL, the NBA playoffs, Major League Soccer, baseball going in full swing? What are you looking forward to the most? And let us know in the comments. OB, Brandon, thanks again. Thanks to all of you out there, and stay awesome.